Hi there, this is the second part of the Java 8 Streams cookbook, and you'll meet one of my favorite methods. It's the FlatMap method. You'll learn how to use it and when to use it. You'll also learn everything about sorting streams in natural order, reverse order, any order you like, and don't worry if you don't know, for example, what a natural order is, you'll learn that too. And finally, you'll have a look at a more advanced collectors use case, which you might find useful in your day-to-day work. So let's get started. When you look at the accompanying project from last episode, you'll see a small change. Now, when you create a President of the United States, you can also pass in a list of his wives as a last parameter. And as you can see, I created a list here, wives of Donald Trump. I initialize it up here, and it's basically 3 wives. So we've got new wife Melania, you've got new wife Marla, new wife Ivana. And each of these wives in turn has a list of children that you can pass in. So Melania has an only child, Baron. Marla has Tiffany. And then Ivana has 3 children, Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka, and Eric. And we're going to work on these children. We're going to flat map them. So create a new test method. Call it flatmap, sort, collect. That's all of the things you're going to do. Then on the POTUS list, call get 0 because you only want to work on Trump in this episode. Right, and then imagine you want to have a list of children. Basically, you want to get all of Trump's kids in one list. And for that, you'd have to go through the wives, so trump.getWives. And then a naive approach could be turn the list into a stream. Then simply call map like you did in the last episode. And then every wife is going to get turned into wife get children, right? And then you simply call collect, collectors to list, and you're good to go. Actually, not really. Let's rearrange the code a little bit to make it easier to read. Like so. Good. And you see you get a compile error. And that's actually a very cryptic compile error. It says incompatible types required list child blah 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 blah. You want to delete that, then extract the whole thing to a variable and see what you get as a result. And you get a nested list. Basically, you get a list which contains a couple of lists again, 3 in this case, for every wife, a list of children. And that's not what you want. You want to get rid of the inner lists. You just want to have one huge list of all of the children. And that's where flatmap comes in. So let's change the call from map to flatmap. Then good to know is that flatmap always needs to return a stream, so you have to call .stream on wife get children. And now let's see if you can remove that. And the compile error is gone. Great. So flatmap takes the nested lists and turns them into one big list. Exactly what you wanted. As always, so that you believe me, simply print out the list. Run the test, wait a sec for everything to compile and to boot up. And then in the console, you'll see we've got a child, Baron, child, Tiffany, child, Donald Trump. So it's just one list denoted by the square brackets at the beginning of the end with all of Trump's children inside. Great. So now let's play with sorting a bit. You can actually sort streams. So imagine you have a list of children now, and then you simply want to sort them. And you want to sort them by name. But what you can always do is just call .sorted on the stream, run it, run the test method again, see what happens, and you get an exception saying class cast exception, child cannot be cast to comparable. And that's because the child class does not implement the comparable interface. And that's why calling sorted on a stream with children will simply lead to that exception. So you either can implement the comparable interface or put in a comparator into the sorted method. And there's a couple of helper methods for that. So you can call comparator.comparing. Then say you want to compare them by age. So simply put in a method reference, run the test again. Now let's have a look at the console. You see there's Baron, age 12, Tiffany, 24, Eric, 34. So the sorting worked as expected. Great. What happens if you want to sort in reverse order? then simply call .reversed on the comparator, run the test again. Now let's have a look again. You've got Donald Trump Jr. up first, age 40, Ivanka 36, Eric 34, and so on. Great. So sorting is relatively simple. Either have the comparable interface implemented or put in a comparator. And then as an exercise for you, have a look at the other methods of the comparator class. We now put in the child getAge method reference, but there's other methods like nulls first, nulls last, etc. Play around with that. And then finally, what you might find helpful in your day-to-day work is often you have a list of kids or a list of something, and you want to turn the list into a map. So imagine you want to have map and then integer as the key, which is the age, and then a child, right? And you cannot simply call Collectors.toList anymore, but there's a simple method which is Collectors.toMap. Then you can again say, well, what should the key of the map be? It should be an integer, so call child getAge on every child. And then put in the child itself of the stream, and there's another helper method for that. It's called function identity. And that little line will simply turn your list of kids into a map integer kids. Let's run again the test. Let's run the test again and see if that's true. Test compiles, runs. And now in the console, you'll see a map. You'll see 34 is mapped to the child Eric, age 34. 36 is mapped to child Ivanka, age 36, and so on. So exactly what you wanted to happen. Congratulations, you now have a solid understanding of how to use FlatMap, how to sort streams, and also how to use the map collector. And in the next episode, we'll have a closer look at using the find method, so find any, find first, also the match methods like all match, none match, any match, and so on. So let's get right after it.